Diana Mall with Yesterday in Turner, the Historical Society here in Turner, Oregon. And this is Susan Roberts. She's also on the board of directors of the Yesterday in Turner group. And we're here with Melvin Baker, a pioneer resident of our city. We're going to get some history from him. Melvin, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? When were you born? Where were you born?
I was born in a red house across from Ball Brothers called the Peck Place. The Pecks are named in this book.
All right. When?
The red house, right straight across the two small houses there now. But it was a red house, and the house leaked. So it must have been on the determined, because then my folks turned around and bought this house in Turner.
Oh.
My mother has wrote here on the note of this that they paid $600 for this house, and a year and a half later they sold it for $1,200.
Very good. So what year were you born?
1924.
And had your family been here?
My family's been here in Turner since I say 52. They came across the plains in 51, but he spent the first winter at French Prairie.
All right, yes. And then found out where they wanted to move.
Yeah, and then he came across Central Howell. The Timothy Hay was to the shoulder of his horse when he came across. This one here carries the family name. That's my great-grandson.
That is so precious.
Yeah.
Yes.
You have quite a heritage coming across the plains and
Well-
everything. Well, you were born here. in
Yeah,
Turner,
well-
and you've lived here almost all your life.
You know, the only time I haven't lived here is when I was in the Army.
And tell us about your Army service.
How old were you?
Nope, I
How
don't
old-
talk about my Army.
Were you,
How old were you when you went into the Army?
19.
and that's World War II. Were you in European theater or the South Pacific?
Nope, I was in the United States the entire time. I was with the 8th Corps District. And I had a very important something that we did. I was with anti-aircraft guns. I wasn't going to tell you, but I'll tell you. I was an anti-aircraft gun, and we were at White Sands, New Mexico. We guarded the first atomic bomb.
You have quite an amazing heritage. You went to school here in Turner.
Yes, I did.
And tell us about going to school. You walked to school.
Oh, yeah.
And what did you do at lunchtime?
Went home.
Went home
Okay,
for
went home
lunch?
for lunch. All right.
Did most of the kids go
Yes.
home for lunch? Or
Yes.
all of them went home for lunch?
Yeah, except right during somewhere in the 30s, they had a school lunch program for a while. And a woman by the name of Mrs. Leap, and she lived in the caretaker's house on the Turner Tappan, where that old building that was the lunch or the dinner hall, there was a house there for the caretaker in my day. Now this thing has been owned by my mother's aunt, then my mother, and now me. So
It's precious.
yeah, I did.
Tell me, what are some of the major events that you remember happening here in Turner?
Well, then the flour mill burnt.
How old were you then? Do you remember?
Well,
Teenager?
I must have been 10 or 12 years of age. Why I'm going to tell you, my mother's brother, Herbert, was working in the flour mill. And my dad, and it's a 5-story building, we climbed the stairs up to the top floor, and he was shoving grain in a hole in the floor. And anytime I had a dream of falling through that hole, I knew I had a fever.
So, do you know what caused the fire?
Probably dust.
Okay. Was that, do you have volunteer firefighters back then? What?
They only had a 2-wheel cart with some hose on it.
Couldn't put the fire out.
That was rough.
And this building here was up on the upper level. You see this creek comes around here like this? Well, and then it turns here and goes into the flour mill. And
Okay.
the power plant, Turner Power Plant, that building that's still there, that's where the power plant was in Turner. And when I was a kid, the lights went off at 8:30.
Oh, just automatically.
Automatic, well, actually 8 o'clock.
What time did they come back on in the morning?
I have no idea.
Were they on when you got up and
Yeah.
went to school?
No.
Yeah?
Did they generate the power from?
From that mill race came, it's up here like this, and there was a falls like this.
Oh,
And that is what generated the power plant. And Turner Garden Club landscaped it all, had it all in shrubbery. Had a little park here.
how nice.
And when Berkeley's got it, they filled it into the height that it is nowadays. The big thing in Turner, when I was a kid, everybody had prunes.
Prunes, okay.
Schiffers had prunes, the Staples had prunes, Aarons's had prunes.
Did you have a prune dryer in
You know,
there?
there, where they, about where the houses are being built now, Aaron's has had a prune dryer there. And if you've been up Summit Hill, as you're coming along like this, and then you go up like this, and go up, and then back down on Summit Loop, there was a dryer right there.
So you'd load up your prunes
Yeah.
and take them and then get them dried and come pick them back up?
Mm-hmm.
Could you sell them at that point, or did you use them for yourselves?
Well, we probably used all ours ourselves. In fact, I have, and my grandmother's dried prune cake recipe.
Oh, that's a precious thing to have. Have you made it? You
No.
cook.
I cook. In fact, I aim to. I've got the prunes.
All right. Did you have a post office in Turner?
Yes.
What kind of, did you pick up your mail or have
Yes,
a mail
we picked
person?
our mail up,
Okay.
although we had boxes.
Had mailboxes, okay. Did you have a newspaper?
Yes, I'll show it to you.
Okay.
All right. This is the
The post office.
this is the post office here, and the paper was here, against this building right here.
Turner Tribune.
Mm-hmm.
Did you read the newspaper when you were young?
No.
No.
The high school was right here in Turner also.
Mm-hmm.
And did they have like dances and things
No,
like
we
that,
didn't.
activities like
No.
that? No,
No.
you just went to school.
Just went to school.
Were you a good student?
All but typing.
Typing.
You had to take typing?
I don't know why, but I did.
So after you got out of the Army and came back?
I went to work for Berkman's.
Okay,
I worked for them for 24 years.
So, you lived right here still, so you could
I
just
go-
walk to work and everything?
I just walked to work.
Mhm. And you told us that you had built this home in 1941, is that right?
47.
1947, after World War II had ended and
Um,
things were picking up.
My dad, we were renting a house that my dad had, and my dad gave the house to my sister, and so we moved in with Dad from, we'll say, about 3 months, but we had already started this house. And so when we moved into the house, we had put that wall up, this wall up in here. We had a footboard across the kitchen here. We had a hot plate on it, and we did have the kitchen sink. And we slept in that bedroom, and we moved here about, we'll say in April or May, and we had the construction toilet right out there. And for our wedding, first anniversary wedding, we bought the toilet for the wedding gift. And we had built the septic tank and had it all ready for it. We were delighted to have indoor plumbing.
Yes.
So we built the house around us.
Mhm.
And I have remodeled the house more than once. I have tore all this out in here. And originally this was all Furtex. There is 3 ceilings above in this house. We had a fire right after we finished the house in the garage, and it damaged the kitchen, and this was all smoke damage. And so I told the insurance company, don't tear the ceiling out, just put a new ceiling over top of it. Because I had made the house 8'1", and so consequently, I still have 8 feet in here.
all right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
You didn't lose any ceiling, yeah.
And this house, before I put the tin roof on it, everybody's snow had melted off, and of course it's insulated up there, but I contribute to 3 ceilings.
Okay, Melvin, you said we moved in here, you and your wife.
Yeah.
Where did you meet her?
I came home from the Army, we'll say, I am somewhere, probably in the 44, and I went to a basketball game. And 6 girls come up and flocked around me.
Were you in uniform?
I was in my uniform.
Okay.
Wait to hear about this.
I bet you were very handsome.
I can show you my picture.
Let's hear the story first.
And I'm 21 years of age, and they're all minored. And it was well drilled in us at that age that girls underage were jailbait. So I wasn't that interested in this bunch of young juniors, girls. And one of them was my daughter, my wife, and she on that Sunday after that was ranting and raving to her sister-in-law, and my sister-in-law bet her $5 that she'd marry me. And of course, she was absolutely wasn't that. And so, my buddy that lives here, he and I got out of the Army in 45, and he was nuts over a certain girl, so I made a blind date for, and this girl really made a play for me, but I made the blind date for her, for Johnny, and so I had to come up with a girl, so I went to the same church that Pauline did. It took me 2 hours talking her into going with me.
Where did you go?
We went to a Billy Graham crusade.
Did you?
The ballpark was where now the Salem post office is.
Yes.
It was in that building, that space. The Billy Graham crusade was.
And how long before you married her after that first date?
I would have married her sooner, but I said to her, and you deserved to have your high school education, so we waited till she was out of school. And that would be a year and a half later, and that's when we got married. My
Did you
grandfather Solon was one of the pioneer Masons.
Were you a member of either of those organizations?
I refused to be.
Okay.
How
And you have to understand, Uncle Jay was a Mason, Uncle Hub was a Mason, the Masons came to me more than one, wanted me to join, and I have a few pet peeves against Masons, so I'm not gonna, it's my own opinion.
That's fine.
That's okay. It was a big part of that pioneer
Yeah.
movement this way.
Mhm.
So. What about church activities? There were lots of churches in
Yeah,
town.
I went to the Christian church till I was 17. And I'm going to shortcut this story. It was Depression days, and they had a squabble in the Christian church. And I'm not going to enumerate on it. And my mother said we didn't have the money to go to Salem to church, so we would go to the Assembly of God, but we don't have to join them.
Oh.
And they were in the creamery at that time, the Assembly of God was. I'll tell one story quickly. There was a White House, a two-story Italianate house. Now, do you know what I'm talking about when it's an Italian house?
I do.
The man, the name was Joe Hall, lived in it. And as you go out Whipple Road, on this side of the road, disregard the London trailer houses, but there was up here, there was a house that Delzells, all kinds of people have lived in that house. That was originally the Joe Hall farm. Then there's a driveway that goes back to the dairy farm. Then this is a Miller place. And all this land across the tin corn was Miller. Now the Millers, Grandma Miller was a cook. And the cook, her grandfather was the only white man present at the last of the great chiefs of the Talapuli. And he's buried somewhere across the road from Cook Road. And my dad's the only white man, lest there are some cooks but Grandpa Cook showed my dad the grave. And I can remember when the 4 professors came from Oregon State to our house begging him to show them the grave. Now my grandmother had great respect for the Indians. In fact, she even fed an Indian chief for three winters.
That was nice.
So he came for dinner one day, breakfast one day, and she said to him, "Tuckerman, I'm not going to feed you anymore. Your wives are stealing me blind." He stalks out of the house. I told this story to them. He stalked out of the house, and the next thing she knew, he was coming up the lane. And then you know the lane is quite a distance back to the house. And he was driving these wives in front of him with goose eggs, watermelon pickle jar, and everything. He comes in, he sits down at the table, and he says, "Now you feed me, they'll poison me."
Oh.
The one field back of the house, there's 10 springs. And it's called the Mound Field by the family. And all the way around the field is Indian graves. Now the Indians camped at this 10 springs. They also camped at the springs where I showed you folks where they tracked the Crooked Horseshoe back to Salem on the Delaney murder. That was a day's journey with the Indians from there to there. And this field had a lot of Indian graves. My grandmother purposely had them obliterated because she did not want the Indians disturbed. Because she had great respect for them.
That was a precious
And she could even speak enough jargon.
To communicate with them?
Stay put for 1 second.
Oh, this is you, isn't it?
Oh,
This is me.
This is
This is an artist. He's from Carmel, California. He's famous for doing cats and dogs.
Well, I think you did a great job.
Didn't you?
It looks as good as a
People.
photograph.
Carmel, California.
Beautiful.
See, I knew you were a handsome young man.
Yes. Wonderful.
Great story. Thank you so much, Melvin. Really enjoyed listening all the history. Got a fabulous memory for names and dates.
This was the first house built outside the city of Turner, my house.
Really?
The city limits was go right here beyond this drive. You see here, right here, our property. There was another street bridge right here into this property. This was the original road to Salem,
Oh, really?
and it went up the hill to the Watson gas place, and went back on the road and back down.
They'll do.
Now this is the original house. Just pull off right here
I
and
have to
stop.
be careful because
That guy's trying to leave, I
the
think.
gravel is kind of crazy.
Okay. Now the original house was built here, where this house is. The barn was built up here. And then the gas bought and built another barn right here, which they tore out too. The house here, there was 2 oak trees here when I was little. The one on this side of the road. And my dad tells that the oak of the oxen used to be in the branches of this tree. It rotted out as it came across the plains. I always thought that was kind of interesting.
Say that again now.
The yoke,
Yeah.
wooden yoke that was
Yeah.
on the oxen was in that crotch of that tree that it rotted out.
Oh.
I can remember the tree was smaller.
Huh.
Okay, now, whoa, about right here. This is the beginning of the school district, and they sold it to Witzel. Thus, the school used to be up on this fence line here, and they moved it over on 22, the Witzel School, and when they sold it to them, and my grandfather was one of the, he was 21 years of age when he was still going to the 8th grade, and that's school year, he they had married 5 boys. They were on a big bunch of them. They were in their 20s. Were still in the 8th grade. They had married 5 school teachers off in the beginning of that school year. And then you get a new school teacher and a boy get married, and so they went to school. Tom Heron was one of them. That was in the 21-year-old too. Tom Heron and Solon Baker were great buddies, and they came up to the school. And when they walked into the school, you can drive on now.
Okay.
I'll just keep talking. They came in, and there was a saddlebag beside the school desk, but they didn't see any teacher. And so pretty soon a man showed up. He came in, and about 5 or 6 minutes after he called class to order, they began to throw spit wads and shoot they drilled their rulers, and they would put clover seed in the rulers, and then they would flip them like this, and it would rat-tat across the ceiling, and bango, a Bowie knife. He showed up, and he dropped it on the desk like this, and it just stood there and quivered. And he opened his saddlebag and laid 2 6-shooters down. And we're going to go this way now. And he they settled down and began the same episode again. And he threw another knife to the back wall, and they looked at him, and he had both 6-shooters in his hands. He said, "I'm going to use these next." He graduated all those boys at 21 out of the 8th grade. Got rid of them. And this is the original Presbyterian church.
Right. Yep.
The bill to this church is in the Fiji Islands.
What?
The bill was rang in this church is in the Fiji Islands, and it's about this high off the ground, and they can take it and pull the rope, and they call the people in Fiji Island church.
So it's still a church bell.
So what church is it?
This was a Presbyterian
Yeah,
church.
but the one in Fiji Islands.
It's Assembly of God.
And that's what this church became before it moved to become
Yeah.
Church on the Hill, where you all used to go, or do go.
She said, turn right here.
This is my great uncle Ferris owned this property. He owned this property. He owned that property. When he sold the farm in Cloverdale, he put it in real estate and rented it and lived off the income of it. Go ahead.
Is that barn, little barn there?
That little barn was a full barn.
Okay.
Now, this go ahead. Now, slow down right here. The barn to my grandmother's place was right here. This was the original schoolhouse in Turner.
Where? Right here? Okay.
gray
I'll
one?
make-
The gray
So
one.
I'm on 2nd Street and Elgin.
The ceilings are at least 14 feet high in that house.
Wow.
And was the schoolhouse on the corner?
Right here. This was the first school.
Okay.
Now,
First school.
5315. Elgin.
Melvin, when you say it was the first school, you mean the public school or was
that
it
public school.
First public school, thank you. And that one I think I know the date on, but I'll check it out.
Can you pull into the intersection just a
I
little?
surely can.
Whoa.
Well, I see the car. Okay, how far do you want me to pull in?
Just got out a little more. Whoa. Down there where the tree is, that's the. Later somewhere I'll show you the picture of that house. That's where I lived till I was 4 years old. I was born in the house just beyond this house, the Peck house, and it was a red house, and it leaked in the. And I don't blame them for tearing it out. You can turn now and go this way. This was the dance hall. It's mentioned in several books.
Sure.
The Turner had a dance hall. That's the dance hall up there.
The 2nd floor. Yep.
Now we're going to go straight on across.
Okay. Okay.
Now this is Hallie Endicott bought this enclosed 2nd Street and built that house. She was a retired school teacher. She became the mayor of Turner. Now this is the R.O. Thomas house.
So this house is
I mean, this was Hallie Endicott's house.
okay.
Hallie Thomas Endicott,
Okay. And she was the mayor.
and she was the mayor at one time in Turner.
Is that who it was?
Yeah, doctor's. This was and that building. It was his clinic originally. Turn here.
Wow. Okay.
This is where Cliff Pretty lives, by the way. Today.
The Thomases sold that house to Wes Smith. Oh, it was over there, and they built this house. This house was built by Talbot's, and she was a teller at the Turner Bank.
Okay, so we had a pharmacy in here,
Yeah.
and we had
This,
in a bank.
now, this was the Watson place. The Boneses bought it, and all that land to the province. Now, they crossed the bridge now.
Cross over the bridge.
And then my family bought this, sold that house, as I said, on the other side, and bought this place. And that house burnt in 1940, and my mother rebuilt the house. This is the house that my mother first lived in when she came to Oregon.
Oh my goodness.
Wow. My grandmother, Baker, owned the house on that end of the street. And all that land at one time, not this piece of land, but all that land on between it and the creek was owned by the 3 people. Now, we're going to go this way.
Take a left.
Yeah.
On Delaney.
We're heading for Cloverdale now.
Well, Cloverdale, should we go down?
Now, this is the original McKinney house, the one brother.
Huh.
I don't think I've ever been.
Now, this is the original Hillary house. Right here. It wasn't here.
You want me to go straight or take a
Go straight ahead.
Go straight.
The Hillary house was here where the Ennises built the new house. they moved to the Hillary house down there and sold that piece of the farm off.
So that house had been moved?
That house had been moved from here.
Huh. They have to because
Here's the brick house.
Wow, look at that. That
And
is
that's the McKinney property.
substantial. Do you know when that was built? It probably mid 1880s or something?
No, it was earlier than that.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Because they came here, I've forgotten now whether it's 44 or 48, the McKinneys came.
isn't that beautiful?
Well, when we get back home, if you have a few minutes, come in and I have a book from Sarah Hunt Steves, and she is a pioneer family up near Silver Creek Falls, and she and my Uncle Abner wrote a book on Marion County pioneers. I found something the other day. I found my grandmother's booklet on Turner. And my mother wrote all over things in the borders about the house and the houses and the people and so forth.
So did you build this house all at once or in pieces, you know?
Well, I've remodeled 3 times.
And what year did you build this?
I started in 47. I added this is the first piece we added on, is this breakfast nook.
What's that book?
This book here is Remembrance as a Marion County Pioneer from 1840 to 1860.
Oh, okay.
Now, we were talking about the McKinneys. Reuben Lewis came to here in 1842. Allen Davies is the man that he pulled across the line. He was here in 1842. He settled in Almsville. Delaney came in 43. Both he and his son, Junior. Looney's came in 43. That's Looney Butte out of Jefferson. John Aaron, 1845. Pringle, Virgil Pringle, 46. John McKinney, 1847. That article, she was also lived here near Salem.
Who was that?
That Indian woman.
Dorian.
Dorian?
This book, it's hard to read because it's part of a diary.
So you can just put it down like this and make copies.
Read, start reading right here for a page.
Okay. Thursday afternoon, it was proposed we visit Baker's, none of them being members except Mrs., a Baptist, and the reason being that there were so many young people to be reached. We found them a very cordial, entertaining family. They are pioneers, came across the plain 32 years ago in an ox cart. It was between the years that the cholera took so many of the immigrants, and Mrs. B told of seeing dozens of bodies lying across the alkali plains. Our visit was pleasant, and we were treated to watermelon, pears, apples, and plums. They, like most of these Westerners, live bountifully. The Baker farm was surrounded by a snake fence, 7 logs high. They lived in a picturesque, strong-built log cabin with low, solid walls of logs and an overhanging shingle roof. The big open fireplace and a wide chimney looked homelike and inviting. By the side of the fireplace were 2 deer horns fastened to the wall, holding a rifle.
My son has that rifle now.
Really?
I gave him the rifle. My dad broke the rifle. He broke the stock when he was a boy, And so my son took and glued the stock back together, and then we sent it to a real gunsmith and had it replaced. Go ahead, I'll tell you something about the gun after you're finished.
And on the high mantel shelf stood the clock. 2 corner cupboards held their supply of dishes. Next to the house was a storehouse for apples, so that the smell of apples filled the whole house.
Hams and everything else.
They invited Jeanette and Will to stay for dinner and served a bountiful repast of roast pork, potatoes, vegetables, and fresh apple pie. After dinner, Mr. Baker put a big log on the fire and told them of his experiences as a young man crossing the plains. What was Oregon like in those days? Will asked. Well, we came here, said Mr. Baker. When we came here, said Mr. Baker, this valley was like a big open prairie with red clover and native grasses stretching as far as the eye could reach. There was a fine hay for cattle before people began coming in to plow it up and spoil it. All this oak brush has grown up since. The trouble with Oregon is that there are too many homesteaders, too much cattle. Now all the wildlife is disappearing. Mrs. Baker told of the sickness they had to contend with when nearly every family lost some loved one. After all those long years, her eyes filled with tears when she told of the death of her baby girl and how hard it was.
That's not true.
Huh.
Because Aunt Mary, I can remember seeing Aunt Mary.
And how hard it was to leave her dear one buried in that lonely grave in the desert sands. They started with fine furniture, chairs, table, and dresser, but one piece after another had to be discarded along the way. She proudly showed them a little rocking chair, the only piece of furniture that she had been able to save. When they left to go home, the bakers gave them apples, pears, and a smoked ham.
Here's the rocking chair.
This one right here with the red cushion on it? Mm. So that came across the Oregon Trail.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Take the bottom one off too. I want to talk about that. When Jackie Kennedy went through the White House, she showed a boulder material. It was upholstering material that was found in an attic in Pennsylvania. It was this same pattern.
Huh.
And I had this chair completely tore apart and re-glued. It'd been through 2 fires of people. It got busted up and loose, and I had it re-glued, and I was going to have that new upholstery. When I found out that was found in Pennsylvania, I said, no, it stays.
That's right.
So that's why
Okay, you're going to put that down first.
I put those 2 down first. I protect it.
So you still use it?
Oh yeah, regularly. Everybody loves to sit in it. I went to church one morning, and I was having trouble breathing, and the preacher was preaching, and I said to him, I'm having trouble breathing. So the pastor and 2 of the church board came down and prayed for me. I sleep.
Thank you.
Last night I got up at 1:30. The night before I got up at 3:30. But I get up usually once and a night since then. God touched me, and I have no trouble breathing, and I sleep. And I can't much say thank you, Lord. Thank
Yes.
you, Jesus.
Yes, I agree.